Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. Let's talk about job performance. This is just a metaphor for family relationships or intimate relationships. Imagine you were born, and you were assigned a job. You applied for and received a job, and you held that job for however long you've had it. I'm 54, so say I have this job within the family that I've applied for by buying and being born into a system. I have been given this role, this title, this responsibility, and I'm given this job title of whatever, daughter, mother, sister, cousin, granddaughter, whatever, it doesn't matter, intimate relationship, wife, etc. Carry that out, coach, it doesn't matter, take your pick. That I've got this job that's been assigned to me, and by virtue of the fact that I'm there and I'm completing the tasks of that, no matter how well, by virtue of the fact that I'm there completing the tasks of said job, we can assume that I either applied for the job or just fell into it by happenstance, and no matter what, I'm there doing the job. Well, most jobs that we know of on the real side of life have job performance, right? A job performance review. In the military, they call them OER, an officer evaluation report. They happen routinely because we want to make sure that our employees, our workers, are doing what the standard is, what we expect. Well, that can run into some real problems because the people that might be setting those standards may not be very good at setting standards, or they might have standards that are ridiculous and setting us up constantly to never really be a very good employee, right? We're not a very good worker because we're not making 8,000 shirts an hour, whereas what's really realistic would be to make 10. I don't really know, just an idea. So if we look at our position in our job, our role, our title, within a family dynamic or close relationship structure of some kind, and we look at that and we see that we've been an employee with a standard that's unreasonable, we might want to withdraw from that company. We might want to say, yeah, I don't really want to work here anymore. I really don't like my performance reviews happening on the regular, like daily or with every task that I complete, or I'm never getting any feedback until I completely take something into my own hands that I don't really know what I'm doing, and I bungle the entire thing. And then I've got a whole team of people telling me what I should have been doing. These are the types of things that we experience when we're in a toxic relationship with people. A toxic family dynamic particularly is what I'm talking about. Dysfunctional AF is when you are an employee or a worker, or you hold a position within a company, a family, or a system where you're expected to do stuff that you may or may not know what your job expectations are. You may have no idea what the qualifications were supposed to be or what they are expected to be, and you may not be qualified by somebody else's standards. That is exactly what it's like to be in a dysfunctional family. You may or may not have any idea that you're showing up for your job every day, and that there's all kinds of expectations behind the scenes, and that we're getting ready to give you your job performance review in a minute and let you know what we think of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And it would be okay if it was just a job, maybe. Abuse is abuse and it doesn't feel good, but it would be, a little easier to digest perhaps if it wasn't so personal. If I've held a job in a family, or I've held a position in a family, and I suddenly have been fired, or I no longer want to work for this corporation and I'm ready to put in my 2 weeks notice 3 weeks ago, retroactively, I don't really want to have to go back for the job performance review where I'm not going to get a raise. I never was in the first place. And I really have no ties to that company. They don't pay my insurance. They don't do anything for me. Why would I continue to come back and ask my boss of that system to please evaluate my performance in a whole different job, in a whole different company where you have zero relevance, okay? This is what it's like when we're part of a dysfunctional family or a dysfunctional relationship where we go back expecting that those people will change because I did, or they change and they expect me to change. Either way, it doesn't matter. Generally speaking, when somebody wants to leave a toxic environment or a dysfunctional situation, when they want to leave and they go, they're going to meet high levels of resistance and be thrown a lot of gaslighting and a lot of nonsense about what their job performance was. I actually was called an oxygen thief. I was labeled an oxygen thief by someone that I knew for 30 years, and I couldn't believe I'd heard that person say that about other people. And now I know that should have been a clue that if they're going to be that dismissive about anybody else, you're on the chopping block next for when you piss that person off the most, or at the right moment, or whatever. All the seasoning put together makes that little nut roll of ugh, and it's come together cosmically for that to come flying out of that person's mouth. I was shocked. However, truthfully, if we see in our job that our coworkers are willing to throw other coworkers under the bus, or the boss is willing to collude over here with this person or this situation, or we're willing to slide our principles here because I'm really sliding mine here, and you turn around and don't notice that, and I won't notice that, and we'll scratch each other's back when it's convenient. That's all Shark Tank stuff, and I don't mean that fun show, whatever that is. I mean a literal Shark Tank. That's Predator, Hunger Games, and I become an oxygen thief after being a faithful employee. My job performance evaluations were low. I must be honest. 555. Thank you. Change. In numerology, 5's all about change. I'm the team jersey man. I wear team blue 555. Man, I'm jersey number 555. Thanks. Blue Tower. That when I was called an oxygen thief, I understood, because I really wasn't a very good employee. I was not the greatest family member. I was quite irresponsible in a lot of ways. And I found that because I was getting constant evaluation of my performance and my own resistance to the way I was being spoken to, it wasn't that I didn't want to improve my performance or be a better person or do a better job. It was a matter that what incentive do I have to do? I'm not getting paid. And this is all metaphorically. I'm not really getting paid the kind of, money that I really want, and I never get a raise, and I don't get any time off. I'm just constantly evaluated as, at a minimum standard, you are an oxygen thief, and we allow you in here to do this slave labor stuff because you're a body and you'll get the job done. That's what it began to feel like. And when I started really noticing that and went, I'm not sure that I really appreciate how I feel about the things that you're saying to me. They seem quite abusive. It's very naive sounding, but honestly, I was born into a corporation, if you will, that was quite dysfunctional, and it was not uncommon. It was not unusual and not uncommon at all for me to be given a directive about my behavior socially. It was not uncommon to be told how to behave or what to do or what to say or what not to say and how to act in public. I actually had family members that would pinch my arm if I was making too much noise, if I was too loud, if I was doing something that embarrassed them. To this day, I am still mystified and miffed with my own self that how did I get so far away from being a grown-up? Because I've been a grown-up for a while now. I'm 54 and I'm going on 55 in just a few weeks. So, how did I make it so far away and back into that regressed state of lowly employee scrubbing toilets and what have you, that I suddenly don't have a voice, I don't have a vote, and I'm no longer worthy of oxygen anymore. And here my evaluation is that you just suck all the way around. All the way around you suck, from sun up to sundown. And occasionally, you might not suck, you might do a better job, you might be more decent at your job, but basically, we're just kind of tolerating you and we need to motor you around, and you really need a handler, and let me take over that position. That's exactly what the extreme toxicity and dysfunction is all about. Now, I'm not doing this or saying this to be mean or to call specific people out for stuff, but when we're motoring adults around, and especially when we're motoring around people that are vulnerable, they're in a position to believe whatever we say because we hold the title over them. When we abuse that, or we break someone who's already broken and who's in just a state of, I don't know what to do, and they're vulnerable, when we take advantage of stuff like that, it's very easy. I learned very early on, that the big guy is the one that's in charge. My stepdad was physically abusive, and there wasn't a lot of protection to stop any of it. I got my ass handed to me on the regular because I didn't understand, and because I was a loud child and undiagnosed until I was 30-something, autistic, and then wrongly diagnosed after that. So many years of abuse and misunderstanding that just because I'm kind, and just because I'm willing to be a team player, and just because I'm I'm willing to do a lot of stuff doesn't mean I'm willing to do everything, obviously, because I had my own resistance, my own anger, and my own bitterness about feeling motored around all the time and truly believing for a very long time that I couldn't possibly hold my own or be a decent employee because someone was constantly having to be behind me and tell me what to do and how to act, what to say, what not to say, how loud to be, mom, dad, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff that we get the constant barrage of input from people who think they have authority or we've given them authority. Now, when I worked my first job, okay, even when I was 14, I worked in a pizza place, and it was the most horrific job ever. I hated it. However, I did understand my role as you are the employee, and that's your boss. I also understood what abuse was back then from somebody that I didn't know. What I didn't know how to identify is take that back to your life and understand that anybody who's willing to talk to you like shit, treat you like shit, treat you like you are dumb, treat you like you need a handler like MK Ultra is your middle name and there's your ID tag and, let me click you into being whatever you need to be in order to be socially appropriate to hang out with me. That's some bullshit right there that will cause a lot of confusion, especially for people that basically very good natured and basically very willing to forgive and move on and just keep on trucking, and also assume responsibility for a lot of the emotional drama and baggage that was happening within my own life, within the generation of people that I come from and the generation of people that I married into. It was all extremely dysfunctional. And again, I'm not trying to call anybody out to be mean. I'm simply talking about it from terms of look carefully at your family, at your job, and what are the benefits that you get? Do you get any time off? Do you get raises? Do you get anything besides constant performance reviews? And are you being called an oxygen thief? Are you being told how you should behave? Are you being told what you should and shouldn't say and what is an acceptable belief system? That's something that I absolutely will not abide, is people telling me anymore. If they think that I'm crazy, if they think that I'm any number of things, it's fine that people don't agree with me and that they have their opinions. It's a matter that the onus is not upon me to be the Christian who's going to sit at the table and have somebody abuse me because I could do that I could sit there and be loving and forgiving. But why would I when I can sit at a table where I'm better qualified for this job, I'm better qualified to be in management of my own life, and I don't want any underlings underneath me, okay? Now, why would I take the time to sit and work on my own divine at a table that I'm being spat upon or getting that look, the stank face and things, and being called an oxygen thief, or have to go back and make amends? What is there for me to make amends about? If someone's called me an oxygen thief and treated me poorly, what is it that I need to make amends for? That I wasn't loving, forgiving, kind enough to stand there and take the abuse? There's something to be said for walking away from that and knowing that internally, yes, it is always our work to do to be loving and kind and forgiving. However, I'm not likely to reach the point of forgiveness if if constantly I'm accumulating more injury and more damage. How am I ever going to reach the point of completion, resolution, healing, and harmony and forgiveness if I'm continually taking on more baggage and attack from other people, or if I'm doing that? Now, there's no way that any one person is without blame, accountability, fault. These are all words that can be very, very, very dicey. People get super duper upset when you start talking about blame. And I can understand it, because blame and shame, we think if it rhymes, it must be the same thing. And very often, shame is a part of it. Shame on you if you were a better, insert the word, better mother, better daughter, better child, better grandma, better whatever. If you were a better something, this wouldn't happen. It would be okay if only you were. And that's really not true. It could be true, but it's not true 100% for 100% of the people 100% of the time. There's no way. We're all on a continuum. So everybody has a piece of the pie. It's a matter of what piece of the pie do I have, and do I want to be standing there with that piece of the pie, or do I want to pick up, move on, and find a different company to work for? Disengage from any company where I'm going to be told what a dirtbag I am and that I don't deserve basic oxygen. It's laughable now. However, at the time, I absolutely couldn't believe it. I just was shocked. I thought, Yeah, I knew you said that about other people, and that should have been. I'm not hugely fond of the word should, but that definitely should have been, because it was a huge red flag. That if a person is in their language, it's in the bylaws of the association, that it's okay to even utter something like that about anybody else. That means that person, it's only a matter of time before they find the reason that you become expendable. And that is exactly what happened in my own personal life, that every single person that I ever thought I could trust found a reason why I was expendable. And I couldn't understand it for the longest time. And it's because I allowed myself to be expendable at somebody else's expense on every front that it happened. And when I became so expendable that I was an oxygen thief, that was just beyond what I could tolerate anymore. And knowing that that person is aligning with other people, that in a healthy company, my boss should be looking out for me, right? Or my supervisor should be looking out for my best interest. There should be some form of protection. So understanding that inside of a Shark Tank, this is the predator games. There isn't any protection when we're in a Shark Tank. We're either not a predator, or we're a predator, but we're not as big as the bigger predators that's chasing up after us. That turns into a very dangerous game, where it leaves us feeling like maybe I am an oxygen thief. Maybe I really don't belong here. Maybe I really don't deserve. And that shocked me so much that one day it hit me so hard. The irony and the stupidity of it just hit me so hard. I couldn't ignore it, that person really think, and they were hanging out with this and looking at the domino effect of, oh no, this is an entire corporation with toxic environment where I have to put in my 2 weeks notice 20 years ago. See you later, I'm out. And I don't want any severance pay. The only severance pay I need is that, boop, I don't need my vacation time. I'm creating my own. And the severance pay I have is that every minute of my life that I gain back and I'm able to build on that, that's my severance pay, is I'm paid back my life in the joy and the restitution to my soul and the healing, and knowing that I'm not accumulating any more of that garbage. I'm not having any more of my life stripped and ripped from me through toxic paradigms and bullshit family relationships and communication that just makes zero sense. I'm not dedicating any more time to that. Instead, I'm building into the very foundation of the company that I'm building. It's my empire. I get to build it the way I want to. Then I think this is the company I want to work for. And I can take my own contracting self and I'll see about going and working with other contractors. However, falling into a corporation family dynamic that's toxic and polluted, where I'm going to lose my soul, doesn't matter how much money is involved. It doesn't matter how much stuff is involved. None of it mattered, because the bottom line is that when you're left high and dry and you're called an oxygen thief, what did I ever have to begin with? I had a very faulty foundation that was built on some very toxic principles and toxic ideas that, when I really looked back at that and understood that for what it really, really, truly was, there wasn't anything truly foundationally sound to begin with. It was a lot of just pie in the sky ideas, a lot of verbiage that sounded good, and a whole lot of not the feet acting underneath with any real integrity, honesty, or dignity. And as that started to fall apart, because people could lie, and I didn't know, I just trust that people were telling me the truth. And when I saw or heard or felt a discrepancy, I took on the burden of, oh, it must be me, that I just don't understand. I'm stupid, I'm crazy, all kinds of things that allow other people to continue on in their deceit and their delusion. And as long as they have an audience in me or you or anyone else where that's believable, then what do they have to do except to coast and enjoy the fact that I'm in a managerial position where I don't really have authority to be here. However, I am here and I'm totally digging it. And they get paid by exacting all of that all the time. That is their payment. And when the employee gets tired of that and they go, yeah, I'm not looking to have a mommy like that at my ass anymore, and I'm certainly not looking to be MK Ultra. I don't need a handler anymore. I'm tired of that. I never really liked it to begin with. And here I realized that, yeah, I never needed that. I don't need that. And the less that we are in this, the less it looks like I need that with this narcissistic abuse. When we start really standing up and saying, yeah, I don't dig this, that's when the house of cards falls down. The standard was pretty low. I didn't realize that the standard was pretty low, my standard of expectation for what other people were having to do. And when I started asking for more, boy, did it really start up a whole uproar of people that were unhappy. How dare she? And I was shocked, absolutely shocked, that it didn't take long for it to go from, I adore you, to you no longer deserve oxygen. And it didn't matter who it was. It was pretty much everybody that I ever knew, because I was a doormat. I was a complete and total doormat. I would just go, okay, and dopey along like I had no business. Yet that I have a strong enough spirit that I felt that discrepancy. I just assumed that it was me, that it was exactly what I thought it was, that everybody told me it was, that it's you, you're crazy, here's your diagnosis, and move along with that. And being chronically depressed, chronically stressed, chronically, full of anxiety, making really crazy decisions, crazy looking decisions, and making a lot of statements that don't make sense. I mean, I was constantly out there just looking like a lunatic. So it set up a very good story. And that was the low standard, was that, oh yeah, I was tapped out early. I was tapped out early in the, department. And once you get a diagnosis and people are willing to jump on board with it, it seemed to make sense. It fell into what looked like it would make sense. But I'm still standing on the idea that I've been out of that whole situation for 4 years, over 4 years now, that I've been breaking free of it. And I no longer go to a therapist. I don't see a psychiatrist. I've not been hospitalized, and I don't take any medication. Then how does that suddenly just transform from being severe mental illness to I'm fixed? If that was the case, I would be a bazillionaire, because I would have some gene that we could clone, and it would be all fixed. So it isn't that. It was that we're in the wrong understanding of what this really is. And because of the situation that I personally was in, I didn't have willing participants. I didn't have coworkers that were really willing to look at the fact that we need to break this monopoly up, because it's some shit. It's really not healthy. None of the employees are truly healthy. The managers really aren't that good, because they're micromanaging and they're not really doing their job. When we have someone that we look up to as our manager, and we're looking for them to protect us, and they call us an oxygen thief, or they try to throw us, away, or they do cast us aside, it's very difficult to feel that sense of cohesion and teamwork. And yet it doesn't make sense when we ask and say, well, I don't understand. Well, it's because I'm going to stand by my standard of, my standard now is that if there's somebody who's talking trash or shit about another human being, and they are serious, dead nuts on about how someone else is an oxygen thief or brown from out of town. I heard that from quite a church lady that used to just really rack my brain with, what? What did she say? You're in the church a lot, and you just said something really super racist, but okay. When I start looking at that and saying, I'm no longer accommodating that in my mind about how that's going to be okay, or how I need to be more Christian or more Jesus-y and forgiving, I need to be quite forgiving of that person, and then book an ass really far away to understand that just because I can be compassionate about how someone would be that ignorant, I can be very compassionate while I'm over there spending my lunch hours with people that don't talk like that and don't really think those things, because unfortunately those were deep-seated problems that were the crux of everything that I grew up knowing and married into, unfortunately. And again, it's not meant to dig and grind at people in my former life. They don't even exist anymore as far as I'm concerned, and I don't have the same name. So hopefully there's no association, and anybody that would want to come at me talking that it's wrong or bad or that I'm incorrect, well then, we had the opportunity to do this a long time ago, and I'm not going to stay silent about my own history, because I know that there's other people. I've talked to them. There are other people out there that suffer under those same kind of paradigms, and if it can help for me to be brutally honest, I mean straight up brutally honest about the situations that I've been in, then I hope to be able to help another person, one other person, a million other people. It doesn't matter, anyone. I would have given anything for a person to come and talk to me and say, you have an inappropriate relationship with this person, this person, this person, this person, and this person, and you need to really look at your emotional boundaries and how you are selling your soul and not getting it right about how you're selling your soul and why. The intention to allow people to be themselves and, do their thing and be forgiving, that's a very kind and very Christian ethic, if you care to believe in Christianity and go that direction. I'm very much into have compassion, be kind, and resolve stuff, and be forgiving, because there really is the best way to get through. However, being forgiving and kind does not mean that you stick around and stay in situations where if you think that I was called an oxygen thief and there was no repercussions on that, I wasn't just called one, I was treated like one and left in devastating situations that put me in a lot of danger and harmed me even further by people who were very happy to take advantage of that vulnerability. And physical vulnerability, mental vulnerability, financial, emotional, it doesn't matter. When you're dealing with a pack of people that are willing to hop in on that, get together, triangulate, make stories, and turn that into some manipulation and weird stuff, it's like psyops at a level that I could not believe. And I'm not making excuses for anybody. I'm so sorry that there are people that are that trapped in their own head and they're in their own suffering that they don't understand the repercussions of their own behavior because they don't understand the repercussions of someone else's behavior on them. Those are very tragic situations in people's lives that would allow them to dismiss the Browns from out of towns any more than the oxygen thieves, the BDU fillers, the uniform fillers, things like that really needs to be a red flag, and a huge sign that this person, if they're willing to discard them and they don't even know them, wait till you dig at them at a personal point where they feel vulnerable, you're going to be gone next, and they're going to try to stab you in the neck, not just fire you, they're going to try to eliminate you. So there's a lot of fear in that, unfortunately, and right now we are really, really, really being pressed with cosmically, energetically, whether people believe in astrology and astronomy and their effect on us. Astronomy is the science part of it, and astrology is where, we talk about the alignments and their effect on our bodies and our minds and our spirits, our soul, etc. If we don't think any of that's applicable, or if we don't work on our own personal development, however we go into it, that we would look introspectively at ourselves, if we don't do that, or we don't think it's necessary because, well, I got this, I've got a job, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, I've got a position of power. I never felt like I had a position of power. That's why I was constantly fighting for one and making kind of jerky decisions about it. However, I never left anybody in a situation where they were hungry, homeless, or without money, or leaving animals in a cruel situation, or having to redesign their entire life because I pulled the rug out from underneath them and, and I was shocked. But this is now the time we're cosmically aligned to be making huge changes. Huge. We are. You see the deconstruction of that old idea, the old paradigms, the old understanding of domination and all these terrible ways of living where we just push people around, we bully them, we intimidate them. We're at an all-time precipice of that stuff, and it will come to an end. And my job, however I can bring it forward, that please get a hold of yourself so that you can tell the bullies, you can tell those people that are extorting and blackmailing and guilt tripping and all that other garbage that whatever. If we get to the point where we don't care, you can tell those people, yeah, fire me, please, it's okay. So that when we are fired, or we decide to put in our 2 weeks notice 30 years ago, and back pay, skip the back pay, I'll just work on that myself, that when we tell them that and it upsets them and they get mad and they start their freaky stuff, we don't get taken down in the process, and we build ourselves back up into the empire that we ourselves stand alone as the CEO. And we can share space and time with other people, but if we're not really standing as our own CEO in our own paradigm of I'm my own empire, I don't need anybody else to pilot this with me. There isn't a number one. There's just me, Jean-Luc, me. Thanks. I'm Picard. I'll run my own ship and I don't need a number one, because when we invite the number ones in, you become number two. And that's not a good place to be whenever you're trying to run your own life. I found out the hard way. So that's probably enough of a rant. It's been quite a day. It's been quite a few days of just a lot of energy circling around. As an empath, I can feel it, I can see it, smell it, taste it, all kinds of stuff. Just okay, there's a lot of weird stuff in the ethers, and we just had the Aries new moon, so the cosmic reset, and I'm a North Node Aries, so this is a big time for me personally and other people too, as we're deconstructing all of those terrible ideas and terrible paradigms. They're going away, whether people like it or not, whether they agree or not, whether they want to go down with the ship fighting, blubbering, whatever, or screeching or acquiescing or surrendering, whatever part of that we're in, we're allowed to make whatever choice we make, right? Until we don't have a choice anymore. And I don't run that, and neither does anybody else. And when we take that upon ourselves to be the Justice Department, that's where you see this. So yes, we have 3D law, we have 3D life, and we have so much more beyond that. And I can't wait to get to the point where we're past this oxygen thief stuff and move on to a place where we really understand that we have accountability for our own behavior, for our own mouth, and for every bit of action that we've taken. It's not a matter of God's going to get you. It's a matter of the world is in a polarized position where if you do this, this happens. We live in an action and reaction state. There's consequences to everything that we do. Karma, if you will, balancing. The scales have to balance, and that's routinely done through the cycles of the sun, the moon, etc., the seasons. So we have the ebb and flow of life as we know it. We're not going to escape winter. We're not going to escape spring. That's kind of how I look at the whole karma idea and balancing, is that when we do things out here that are really horrible, we will not escape that. We might be able to get away with it for 50 years. We might be able to get away with a lot of stuff. And one day, all of a sudden, it comes back and reminds us that, oh, remember back in 1970, whatever? But I thought, yeah, I know. Just because we got away with a lot of stuff, the veil is absolutely it's either thin, gone. It's gone as far as I'm concerned. There isn't one. But that veil of illusion doesn't exist anymore. And since that's happened, you're seeing all of that falling out of the sky, as in the reality of, oh my God. And you get the open mouth to say, you're nothing but an oxygen thief. There was no veil that day. I got it very clearly that, oh, run, girl, run fast and don't look back, because that doesn't have a lot of rehab potential for as long as it's still standing there with that rhetoric. It could be rehabbed. There could be something beautiful out of it. But so far, I'm amazed that I can't even imagine saying that kind of thing and not wanting to go and make amends, not because I'm afraid of the karma, but because that hurts my heart to know that I would hurt and damage someone else. Now, the problem is that other people might be too hurt to accept that, and they might reject it and say, you don't really mean that. And I can't get into that. So as an employee, if I was, not doing a very good job and I go to leave that position and say, look, I'm really sorry. I wasn't always the best employee. I was late. I didn't do my job. I slept, I stole from the company, whatever it was. If that management team isn't really listening, they don't want to hear, and they're just going to want to give me the finger, punish me, etc. Like, I'm not an employee here, and I really have no investment in staying attached to this. What investment would I have to stay and listen to a manager in a company that I don't listen to? And why the hell would I be drawn back in to get my yearly review done? I don't hold that position anymore, and why would I listen to you? You have no consequence. I don't work for you, and this is not my corporation. So my empire doesn't run things that way, and I don't want to play this way. Why people don't want to clean that up, I have no idea. I'm not in charge of anybody else. I barely understand what I'm doing some days, but most days I'm pretty clear that no, the right thing is the right thing, and it doesn't matter whether I like it or not, or whether I think it's fair or not. Fair is what fair is, and there is no other way to go around it. If I've hurt someone, if I need to make amends, I need to make amends. And I don't really believe that anybody can zoom through their life and not have a sense of when we've wronged, that you've wronged someone. We generally know. I do anyway, and I just don't believe that people have zero conscience. I think there are those of us that lose that conscience very early on, unfortunately. But to have zero consequence and zero understanding in our own head, those are pathologies that exist, but they're on the minimum side of humanity. Unfortunately, though, we've monstered out into believing that we're not really pathological, but we don't really owe anybody anything. We don't really owe an explanation. We don't really owe, any amends. We don't really owe anything because we're still over here doing this. And it's a matter of, I guess I can't, change that circus, not my circus, not my monkeys. Then why would I sit there and try to educate the ringleader, or come back and, explain why I don't want to be a trapeze artist, or why I don't want to be the rodeo clown, being run over by the bulls or whatever that shit is. Why would I want to do that over and over and over and over and over again? Because I'm getting paid some enormous salary. What enormous salary am I getting? What am I getting out of that? And coming to grips with the fact that a lot of what we get out of situations is really not all that helpful. It's not really all that comforting, and it's not really all that safe. That can be a hard day to take a look at that and realize that, oh, that really isn't safe. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't seem safe, and it really isn't safe. And looking back on that, being called an oxygen thief by somebody I knew for 30 years, it really let me know that, oh, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense about why there was always that edge of, I'm not sure that I can really trust you. And it also made a whole lot of sense about why whenever I said, no, I really can't trust you, that person went off the chain and you can trust me right up until you can't trust me. I would never do that right up until I do. Things didn't make sense because we always are speaking the truth somewhere in our energy. Even if our mouth isn't willing to say it, empaths and people that are very intuitive can very often feel that conflict. We may not always know what it is, but we can probably feel it if we're really tapped into it. And I was tapped in, I could feel it. I just couldn't relate it to, oh, this has nothing to do with your Christianity, your forgiveness, or your Jesusiness, or your kindness or anything. This is a matter of see the discrepancy, hear what you're hearing, and know that you're only a step away from being that if you piss that person off enough. And that's exactly what it was. And to believe that just because it's been 30 years or 50 years and they've never done that before, that's not a good time to find out, So when people are saying things that are unkind, cruel, etc., I'm not going to even give them a half a chance to wonder what they meant by that or who else they might be willing to extend the invitation to doom to if they're mad enough. And we're triggered, the entire world is on edge with what's going on here. Things are falling apart politically everywhere in every country. I mean, you see the entire world just kind of deconstructing. Mother Nature is exerting and squirting and trying to balance all of the abuse years and years and years. And all kinds of paradigms. The upside down world is ruling it. Like, what? This, to those of us that are looking at and seeing the, insanity and the disparity and, the inability for people to be really honest and really get their own hypocrisy and be okay with it and admit it, they're not. They're really deeply entrenched in the hypocrisy that's worked. It's just the veil is gone now, and you realize that we can see you, we can hear you. That's a hot mic. Everything you say is a hot mic. And I can feel that in my body. And there's a whole lot of, unrest and kind of tension and weird energy in people right now because they're having to decide, am I going to get honest with myself about what's really going on? Am I going to blame my parents some more? Am I going to blame my job? Am I going to blame my, whatever? Am I going to blame this situation? And there's always people accountable. When we've been abused, there's always someone accountable for the actual abuse. However, the cleanup is always ours. If I was abused, I'm the one that's going to have to work on how I feel about that abuse, not the abuser. I can't really realistically expect an abuser to come and sit down and do therapy with me, really? Or to even talk to me about, well, tell me, how did that feel for you? Please. When we get to that point, we won't be having the abuse anymore, but we're not there. So the onus is really upon me. And if I'm working with people that they're not taking accountability, they got none, then I need to move it on, find another company to work for, start my own empire, and, do not put myself in the hands of other people who might crush my retirement by trying to kill me. That's a problem. Or who are willing to deny me the basic sustenance of life and the basic safety that should be and is afforded to every single human being by virtue of the fact that Mother Nature granted you breath and life to be here. Then that's all the authority you need. There isn't another human being on the planet that technically has the right to exert and squirt over anybody else, because I don't create that. Even though I created life, my ex-husband and I created life and we, made babies, does not make me capable of going like that and creating life. There had to be a cause and an effect. And so if I don't run the whole show that is at the kernel of how that happens and manifests instantly, then I'm going to have a great deal of respect for that source of energy that does. And that life force, that intelligence, has far more kindness, compassion, and loving intention than human beings do. And it's also very straightforward. Gravity is gravity. There isn't anything personal about it. You can work with it, or you can try flying if you want to, throw yourself out of a building if you want to and defy gravity. If you have all the tools to do that, fine. If you don't, you might be mad that you fall and you're going to be hating gravity. Well, I'm not responsible for people who make bad decisions hopping out of windows that they're unqualified. You're not wearing a bat suit. You're wearing, your swimsuit. You're not really qualified to be doing that, and that's a dangerous decision to be making. And when we encourage other people to do stuff like that too, because we're gang piling up on another individual, we're gang stalking, and we're just triangulating, and we're gathering a posse, and we're going to get this person. I mean, there's just twisted stuff all day long. So it goes into a lot of areas of human psychology and human development that we're seeing the worst of it right now. We're seeing the breakdown of it, the worst of anything that Carl Jung came up with, Freud, anybody that's come up already with archetypes and understandings of why we behave the way that we do. There's trauma for days, generations, and it's burping up in our face now because we're cosmically aligned to be moving into the age of Aquarius. We're no longer in that restrictive stuff. The dawning of the age of Aquarius, Hippieville sounds stupid and stuff, and yet that's exactly where it's headed. The vibration is moving up on the planet. We're not doing the authoritarian, barbarian thing, and it's going to look a little on the barbarian side as that's being taken down. And the less that I can dogpile in that and jump up and down and be happy that, the authoritarian, the dictators, etc., are being taken down, I'm not happy personally I'm happy that gravity is gravity. That's it. I'm happy that, people that are being brought to accountability. I don't wish to see anybody suffer, and I don't wish for anybody to be harmed or, that tell anybody they don't deserve life, breath, etc. What I do know is we all deserve justice, and we all deserve karma. We all deserve balancing, however you want to look at it. What we reap, we sow. What we sow, we reap. What we put out, we get back. And so until we get those lessons very solidly grounded in our bodies, our souls, and our minds, and in our systems that we're either building or that we're living in, until we get that understanding in there, there's going to be a very volatile looking train up period for people to decide, you want to change your mind now or no? Not ready yet? Okay, well, I can't mess with people who aren't willing to change their mind and see that hate and fear mongering and domination and all that other stuff and disqualifying people for life on the planet just because you say so. No, if you don't have the authority to make that, then you don't have the authority to take that. And when we are dealing with those people, we're not going to have a lot of success. There's not a lot of rehab potential in people that aren't in rehab. So when we're standing there, that's our error. And I'm happy to say that I'm not standing in a crack house trying to, convert people. I'm not trying to convert people at all. Could care less, honestly, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the planet who do want the way out, who do wish to do their life in a different manner. For me to be worried about the millions that, don't. I'm sorry that people put themselves in that position. I really am. It's very painful to watch. And it's also very freeing to know that that's gravity. You're asking me to feel sorry for people who are throwing themselves out, just flinging themselves out of the Empire State Building because they're audacious enough to believe that I can fly just because I said so. We have demonstrated proof that that's not true. So how many times do we want to do that? I don't even want to stand at the base of the Empire Building trying to scoop up the remains of those that have tried and failed, nor do I want to stand at the doorway to say, oh, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Because those are people that they're really hell-bent on making their decisions, and they're still deeply entrenched. And it's very sad, and it's unfortunate. However, there are millions of other New Yorkers who are happy to not get involved in that game at all, and who really just want to find a way to not focus all of their attention on the hysteria, the drama, and the cockydoodle and bullshit that comes with when we're trying to flail around and find the next excuse or justification for a terrible behavior. So 43 minutes later, I think that's plenty. Holy cow. I hope that's helped, and I hope that you have a great day, whatever part of the day you're in. and may you enjoy getting within to your skin because you're divine. It's absolutely fine. Get on in there and remember, you are divine. You absolutely are divine. Respect that, know that, and listen to that, and believe internally all the way to your toenails and back up out through your crown chakra up to heaven, whatever you believe in, that no one has the authority to give you life, then no one has the authority to take your life. If no one has the authority to take your life, they didn't have the authority to give you life. It was a biological process that brought you here. No matter what your parents might tell you, it was a biological process that brought you here and nothing more. There's something more that gave you that spark, because not every conception that comes together makes a human that's out here walking, talking, and breathing ostensibly at the expense of somebody else. Not every one of those conceptions makes a baby, and not every act of biology creates a baby. So whatever that spark of divinity is that made you, that's what has authority, and that's what's in you to get in touch with. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in Brahma, Allah, or anything. You only have to believe in that whatever that is, that's what gives you the authority. And there's nobody that can take that. They can lie to you. They can tell you a whole bunch of stories, and they can confuse you for a long time if you let them any longer. And they can distort your understanding of it. However, they can't ever take it. They can kill your body, and that energy is neither created nor destroyed. That's science that tells us that that energy is going to go on. And so before somebody repurposes your own energy and your own divine spark, whatever you call that, before they repurpose that stuff for you, how about you take a hold of it and say, yeah, I think I'll be in charge of this. This is my empire, and I'm going on from here, Obi-Wan style. And then Luke Skywalker with it. All right, blow up that Death Star. And have a great day. Take care, and I'll talk to you again soon. Remember, get within your skin because you're divine. It really is fine. Take care, and I'll see you again next time. Bye, friends.